City of Isani City Council meeting for Tuesday, April 20th. Seating may be limited. If you'd like to send in a comment for public comment or a public hearing to be read on your behalf, please submit that to the city clerk at jstrand@cityofisani.us or call her at 763-762-5759. I'd like to call this meeting to order. If we could all rise for Pledge Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Is there any public comment at this time? Yeah. If you wouldn't mind stepping forward to the podium, state your name and address for the record, ma'am.
Yep. Melissa Osmussen, and it's 904 Moline Loop, Northwest Isani, Minnesota, 904. And I guess the reason I'm here is just to bring it to your guys' attention. We have a builder in Isani, Paradise Homes, Bob Strauss, that I just built with. Closed on the home in August.
If you wouldn't mind and you're okay with it, you mind taking your mask off while you
Yep.
speak? Perfect.
That we just built with, and we closed in August, and he won't come over and complete work. We've had to hire a lawyer. We're trying to get the city inspector to come out. If he would violate him, the Department of Labor could get involved and write him up and do to certain things that we're not getting anywhere. So now we've got a lawyer. But my main reason is so that no one else in Isani has to go through everything he's gone through, or that we have gone through as he continues to build homes in Isani. And I have letters that we've written. I've had letters of his response to the Department of Labor. I have letters that he's written to my lawyer. I've had letters that he's received from Department of Labor and that he's received. So he's representing himself as a realtor and a builder.
I didn't think you could do that.
We
Yeah, you can.
closed and we
You
did
can?
everything through him, thinking that we were doing the right thing. And so then we didn't have anyone to represent us after the closing to get our work done that needs to get done. We've had frost on the wall. We have 19 pieces of cracked trim. We have a window that wasn't placed right. We have I've got, it's on and on and on. So now we're just to the point where he'll be getting served papers and
The only,
I
the
don't know.
the only thing, I don't want to cut you short, but the only thing I can say that with the building official's position is if the property wasn't done to code, then he can do something.
Correct.
Crack trim, the frost issue, the only thing I can state that I would probably suggest that you do is hire an independent firm to have them do a separate blower door test.
We have. Yep, we've done all that.
And, and if that separate test passes, with the frost in it, generally what happens is there's air leakage and it's not sealed properly. So, and the only reason I speak of this, I've been doing this forever.
For as long as I've been alive, if that tells you.
So, if the building is done in accordance to code, which our inspector would have to do, and if it failed any safety reasons, then he can step in. But the rest of that, I'm sorry, the only thing I can say is you have to take it up with the Better Business Bureau
Yep.
and the state.
We've done all that, and I know you guys were, the city inspector was not even, you guys didn't have one at the time.
We had MinSpec.
At that point, and also, he signed off on a blower door test, but there's no proof, there's no piece of paper, I cannot find a piece of paper that shows that it was done.
Generally, that's would be put in with your literature from your equipment, furnaces, ACs, water heater,
Yeah,
that kind of stuff.
So that's why I just don't.
So-
think it's done. Ours did not pass, I've shown it to Bob the builder, he knows about it, he's seen the frost pictures, he was concerned.
Then I would probably do at this point, it's kind of a sticky situation since MinSpec was our inspector, but I think our inspector can follow suit with that if it did not pass the blower door test. Unfortunately, and I hate to say this, the blower door tests can be cheated all day long, every day. That's why I said to hire an independent company that has no skin in the game.
Yep.
All they're doing is you're paying them $350 to come and do a blower door test, and then they give you the results.
He did that, and he did an infrared.
Yep.
Where it showed that I'm missing insulation.
Yep.
In 2 areas of the house also. So, I mean, I have all of that. I just don't want anyone else to be going through this.
Absolutely.
Homes, and like, if we can nip it in the butt now and get people really watching him, because he is not an easy man to work with. He makes promises, and he does not follow through on anything. So
Well-
now we're to the point, we're just waiting for, our lawyer to serve him papers, but
I think Ms. Wood would have to talk to our building official or Sheila and see what he can do at that point. Because that infrared test does show all that. It shows all the early leakages.
Pretty precise.
Got like 15 pages of it.
We could look into it, but unfortunately, most times it's come into a civil matter between the homeowner
Yeah.
and them, as if the CO has been issued, typically there's nothing we can do on that, and we're advised by our legal counsel to not get involved because it's a civil matter.
Yep.
Unfortunately.
I think-
I've heard that a little bit also.
And I think, you can correct me if I'm wrong, ma'am, but I think you're here more so to give us a heads up of what you're going through, and you want us to be aware
Yeah,
to
absolutely.
keep our eyeballs on this builder, or
I mean, he's
think
got
twice when
6
we're gonna
homes up, so you're gonna have a lot more people.
think twice by
calling
letting
and-
him build more is kind of where you're
Well,
going.
Yep, and calling and complaining, and just if we can watch him, and, I mean, you guys can't make him follow through on work, of course, but.
Right.
He's out there, he's doing more work in, I think he's got, like, he advertised 70 somewhere lots, I don't know what he's building out of that, him and his private, or he calls him a, what does he call him? A partner, a silent partner that owns the land, he calls him a silent partner, and so I don't know how many homes they're planning on doing, but he's got several more for sale.
You know, yeah, and I guess, the building official, I know of him, he's very thorough. So if he finds something wrong, he's going to,
But he's also new compared to what I have, correct?
yes,
Yeah.
yes,
Yep.
yes.
New to the city.
Right.
But he's not
to
new.
this job, he's done
No,
about 25
no,
years.
I've had it.
Yep.
Yeah,
yep.
he's a great guy, and he
Yeah.
runs, I mean, just thank goodness that our staff and the city administrator runs a tight ship. So I guarantee she's gonna kind of touch base and fill in blanks and do her due diligence
But-
of what she can do. But when it comes to our legal counsel, they are also phenomenal, and they'll step in and say, hey, I mean, and if there's anything that we can do to help you, by all means, we'll do it.
Okay.
But I appreciate you telling the council
And
what,
yeah,
what
like
you're
I said,
going
I have
through.
a lawyer that's called, and I mean.
I'm sorry you gotta go through it.
Yeah, I just wanted.
But I do
let
welcome you
guys know.
to, I do welcome you to the city of Isani.
Yep.
And if you need anything, you can reach out to any of us.
Okay.
What was your address again? I'm sorry.
904 Moline. I have information if you guys want to look at any of the pictures or any of the letters, anything, I can leave it.
I don't think that's not really necessary. There's nothing really we can do other than, our inspector would be one to be following up on his next projects or whatever he's got going on. And, I wish you luck with the civil part of it. Unfortunately, that's what happens. And there's another gentleman back there, he's gone through this game as long as I have, and he knows exactly what I'm talking about too. So, yeah, unfortunately, if you don't find a good builder, it's hard to, most of the builders that I do work with are phenomenal. So,
Yeah, there's a couple out in that area, and we just chose the wrong one.
yeah.
So, well, but, I mean, we didn't know anything about them, so I just want you guys to know what's going on and that we have this open and we're proceeding with it and.
Well, we'll definitely keep our thoughts and prayers with you and wish you luck. And
Thank you.
Okay.
any other public comment? With that, then, do I have a motion to adopt the agenda with the agenda modification that is in front of each and every one of you?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion to adopt the agenda by Councilman Lundin and a second by Councilman Collison. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Jimmy Gordon, aye.
Motion carries 5-0. Proclamations. We have the VFW Buddy Poppy. Whereas the annual distribution of the Buddy Poppies by the Veterans of Foreign Wars of the United States has been officially recognized and endorsed by the government leaders since 1922, and whereas VFW Buddy Poppies are assembled by disabled veterans, and the proceeds of this worthy fundraising campaign are used exclusively for the benefit of the disabled and needy veterans and the widows and orphans of deceased veterans. And whereas the basic purpose of the annual distribution of the Buddy Poppies by the Veterans of Foreign Wars is equally reflected in the desire to honor the dead by helping the living, therefore, I, Jeff Johnson, Mayor for the City of Isani, do hereby urge the citizens of this community to recognize the merits of this cause by contributing generously to its support through your donations for the Buddy Poppies on the day set aside for the distribution of these symbols and appreciation for the sacrifices of our honored dead. I urge all patriotic citizens to wear Buddy Poppies as mute evidence of our gratitude to the men and women of this country who have risked their lives in defense of the freedoms which we continue to enjoy as American citizens.
Awesome thing. I ended up buying 5 or 6 of those things every year.
I think I bought 10 of them things, so 9 or 10 of them so far. And every time somebody walks up to me, I just buy them. I don't even think twice. My wife's probably a little mad, but she'll get over it. Do I have approval for the city council minutes for April 6th, which was a regular meeting of city council, and February 2nd, which was a EDA meeting?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion to approve by Councilman Lundin and a second by Councilman Burgley. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Jimmy Gordon, aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. Announcements. Park and Recreation and Culture Board meeting is Tuesday, April 27th at 6 p.m. There is a City Council meeting Tuesday, May 4th at 7 p.m. and an Economic Development Authority meeting Tuesday, May 4th as well. That will immediately follow that City Council meeting. Any council committee reports? Councilman Gordon, because I had a bad connection the day we did the community economic, I always say the EM, I always use the abbreviation, but maybe you could touch base on a few things in that meeting?
The community education,
Thank
meeting,
you.
mean?
Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
I'm trying to think if there was any kind of major developments.
I can't think of any, that's why I kind of leaned on you.
Yeah, nothing that stands out as something that was a huge groundbreaking idea or anything like that. But
I know everybody over at the schools is still doing their due diligence under the current conditions to make sure our children
yeah,
are all
they've got their
learning.
work cut out for them. I know they were starting to get some activities back up and going, and yeah, I know. I think I think the last meeting was a lot of focus on early childhood education, and it sounds like they're really hoping to get their class sizes back to full speed and get them full again. So, yeah, I think they've got their work cut out for them, but they're working hard.
I would concur. No other council committee reports. Let's move on to our public hearings, which is the Main Street reconstruction project. The resolution authorizing improvement on Main Street reconstruction project. Mr. Cook.
All right.
Do we want to do these one at a time, or do you want to bundle them, or what are you thinking, sir?
I guess if I could just do a quick presentation, it'll be very similar to the one you guys have already seen for the feasibility report, but
Absolutely.
then maybe open up to the public hearing, get the comments, and then if you want to proceed, we could go on to the resolutions. If that works for you.
Yes, sir.
All right, so
Floor is yours.
as I said, this is are you already on the setting you want me?
It's already sharing.
Okay. So this will be relatively repetitive from the feasibility report presentation I did back in March. I guess, just for the formality of this process, so we did that feasibility report, kind of established that we're looking at doing assessments. So now we're on to the next step of the improvement hearing, which after 2 weeks' notice for the residents that would be getting assessed, we hold this public hearing to give them their opportunity to comment and be informed, and then we can determine if we're proceeding with the project into the bidding phase is what we'll be moving on to. So with that said, this is the improvement hearing for the Main Street reconstruction project. The project is identified for Main Street West from Whiskey Road to 4th Avenue. I guess that's as details we need to get. The existing condition is the pavement was rated as a 4 out of 10, which is below the condition that can just receive like a seal coat or a mill and overlay to get maintained. And so it's been moved into the need for a reconstruction type project.
Which again, 10 being the best,
10 being the best.
1 being the worst.
Correct. And so I'm sure as the residents here know, the curb is in a very failed state in a lot of the stretches of it. And the pavement obviously was also rated at that low of a level. Other existing conditions are utilities. The water main was installed in 3 different years through this. The original system that went in 1975 and 76, and then the segment was added in 1992, all of which have been found to be in acceptable shape, no water breaks, no issues thus far. And the sanitary sewer was installed in 1994. Again, it's in the current material type of PVC that we have throughout the town that we would recommend keeping in place and haven't had any failures or clogs. And then the storm sewer was constructed in 2 different projects, one on the east end basically and one on the west end back in 2003 and 2006. So the proposed improvements, to try and minimize cost on the project, we determined that reclaiming the pavement is going to be the way to restore it at the most cost-effective option. That's where the pavement surface gets blended with the aggregate below it, and then we only have to remove the portion to provide room for the new pavement to go in. We'd also replace the curb and gutter and the sidewalk. I guess the evaluations that did occur for the public to know was that we did evaluate the option of narrowing the street 2 feet and creating a grass boulevard, but it turned out with needing to relocate catch basins and needing to remove more curb and sidewalk than is necessary, it turned out to be cost prohibitive. So basically putting back the exact same section that was there is the recommended solution, most cost-effective solution that we're seeing. On that note, that next line, the new walk improvement, we are seeing that the walk and curb have been replaced from Whiskey to Rosewood more recently and is in an acceptable shape. And so we're recommending to just leave that in place, save some money, and it should last the life of the project that is being constructed. And then we would also make sure all the pedestrian ramps meet ADA standards for the length of this project. As I said, the utilities, sewer and water are found to be in acceptable shape, so we won't do any work on those. And the only drainage improvement really that we're seeing is there's a long run of street that goes to one low point at the ditch crossing, and we're recommending just adding a second catch basin right next to the other one, kind of make it a double catch basin to take the water twice as fast and prevent it from spreading out into the street on bad weather days or in the early spring melts.
Are we adding a drain on Main Street
So
anywhere?
So that's, I guess, what we're doing. So the feasibility report, if you recall, we were gonna run the storm a block up the road.
Yep.
And then put in the 2 catch basins. After doing the evaluation, we found it wasn't necessary to run it that far. We can save some money by just more or less putting them right next to the ones that are at the low point, just 10 feet over. So you can put in a couple hundred less feet than we had in our feasibility report and still keep that water from getting to to spread out on the street on those big storm events. So
Okay.
final design here has kind of tweaked that down. So here's just that overall layout. Sure, it's kind of hard to see for everybody, but you see that not dark area on the top left part of the screen there? That's where that curb would stay in place. We'd have a little patch there to readjust the catch basin, and some cracked curb and sidewalk would still get patched back. But then the rest of the whole street would be that full replacement of basically what's already there.
We're just taking out the old and putting in new, pretty
Right.
much.
Basically, I guess the only other change that we are proposing is to change the style of curb. The current curb is kind of a, I guess we call it a V shape. It's kind of a sharper bump to it for the vehicles that are going in and out of their driveways. The proposed curb is more of a rollover surmountable type curb, so it should be a little bit smoother of a ride for the people entering and exiting their driveways than what they currently have. So a little bit of an improvement. So this is a side piece that I'm just going to bring up for those along this project to know about. This is not part of the assessment, but part of that feasibility report that's, already been discussed at council. But we did look at the drainage issue at Main Street in Whiskey and have devised a new storm pipe to pipe that water down to North Brookview to prevent that from flooding out onto the sidewalk and flooding out into the catch basins and icing over and having all those drainage issues. So this, like I said, isn't part of this assessment, but it is underway as approved by council to construct this as a separate project this coming year to also improve the Main Street drainage.
Anybody that lived on Main Street knew we got a pond, is what it was called. The old Main Street pond, right in the ditch there to where we sent Public Works out there, and Public Works spent much time and effort trying to get it to drain, and I think the council, I think we all agreed that enough was enough, and we might as well fix it and fix it right.
Right, yeah, it turned out it basically had 1.5 foot blocked off flow, so that water just never had a chance to get out, and that's why it kept freezing up. So that's the proposed fix, and we're out for quotes right now for a contractor to do that work for us. But now back to our Main Street, the purpose of this improvement hearing, the assessments and the funding for this project. So the total project cost, all costs included, is estimated at $674,000 approximately, of which 25% is accessible, which breaks down to $64.16 per front foot. Again, this is all based on the engineer's estimate. And once we go out for bids, if this moves forward, construct it, and then find out what the actual final cost of the built product is, that's what the final assessments will be based on. But so based on these engineer's estimates, these are how these numbers break down. And so this per front foot is essentially the way it's distributed to the residents on how wide their frontage is, how wide their lot is on the project, is multiplied by that cost per foot, and that's what gets them to their assessment cost. The average being about $5,660. I believe the range is down in the $4,000 range, and up to the city parcel actually for the park is somewhere in the $11,000 range. One other thing to note for the residents on this assessment, because the street actually is 2 feet wider than the minimum, the assessment policy is that we assess only the minimum width required by city standard. And so we did subtract out the cost of that extra 2 feet of width before taking this 25% of the remaining cost. And so we did reduce the assessments by at least that portion. Otherwise, part of that assessment policy is the payment schedule, I guess, is what we're using, is half the life expectancy, and the assessment policy is the street improvement is a 20-year life in the minimum amount of time between the ability to assess, And so what we've been using is then half of that is this 10-year payment schedule, and it would be 1% above the municipal bond rate. In this case, we're not specifically bonding, so Mike can maybe touch on that if we want to go there, but the last project came in at 1.72%, which is the lowest I've ever seen or anyone's seen, and the rates are still basically that insanely low. Otherwise, this is a state aid road, so for the city's costs, it would be eligible to use the state aid funds, which we've already done that advance request, and I know we've kind of touched on all this before, so just hopefully covering all those topics. So for the schedule, we did actually hold an open house after we presented this feasibility report to council. We had good turnout, relatively positive feedback, no specific anti-project comments, I guess, that I was aware of.
A lot of questions, but no
Yeah,
negativity.
plenty of questions, good questions, sharing information on what was planned and why, but for the most part, positive feedback. So at this point, we are doing this public hearing. After you've heard any public comments, if you want to move forward, we would need to authorize the project. And then I have also completed the plans, and so we would need to approve the plans and specs and advertise, and the ability to go advertise for bids, at which point it'll be publicly advertised for the rest of, or the month of May, basically open, I believe, a June 1st bid opening. And then we would be planning to award at the June 8th council meeting, with then the construction occurring this summer and fall. The contractor would be able to work in their schedule when they would be able to come, but it's anticipated to be about a 2-month project. And then once the work is complete, we would hold that final assessment that would actually set the assessment final dollar amount in this coming November. So with that, you want to, either if you have questions or if you want to open up to public comment.
Any questions by the council before I open this public hearing? Councilman Gordon, you good? I'm going to take silence as a yes.
I'm good.
All right. At this time, then, I'll open the public hearing for this. If there's anybody that would like to speak on this matter, I just ask that you step up to the podium and state your name and address for the record. This is going to be about the parade.
Take your mask down.
You can take your mask if you're okay with it, Mrs. Bendorf.
Good evening. Yes, Melissa Bettendorf. I'm here representing the North 65 Chamber of Commerce. With me is my colleague Vanessa Hansel and Dave Englund, who is one of the event chairs. And so, you know I'm here, and I just wanted to just bring to your attention that the parade is scheduled for July 8th. And so looking at the project information that was presented, I would ask you to consider that in moving forward with this project so that the area.
So here was our question, and we already faced this because it was somebody on this council
Me.
mentioned. Was it you?
Yeah.
He'd already brought up this question,
Okay.
and our engineer has comforted Councilman Burgley by saying this project would go forward, but there would be no interruptions and still open to your parade and your route.
Oh, great. Excellent. That's great because of all the lineup.
Mr. Cook, you want to add to that, or?
I guess just to clarify, so this reclaiming process where they would be blending the bituminous with the aggregate underneath, that surface would still be open. It'd be kind of more like a gravel road at the time. We could elect to just write the spec to say they can't start work until after, July 10th, and just eliminate the problem. Eliminating a month out of the construction ability to schedule may not hurt or,
It may help, because they may have another project they need to get done before that.
Right, so we
It
were
could go either
planning
way.
to allow them time to schedule later or schedule early, depending on what they had available. Now that we're bidding, reasonably late in the spring construction bidding, you know, they really are gonna have a hard time having had this opening right now, right when they're bidding. They probably were gonna be a little later, so, you know, it may not hurt the bids to just restrict that beginning date to July 10th, but there is the possibility, you know, that we've eliminated some of the construction window that they would have wanted. Certainly there'd be enough time between July 10th and November, you know, mid-November to get the project done.
So even if that was the case, let's facetiously say that all right, let's just go ahead and do this project. And we did start this project, and it was underway, and the parade started, which is right in front of my home, and my children love it, so I don't want to see it interrupted. It would be a gravel road. But there would be no interruption by you. I would actually ask him to say, hey, can you put that construction equipment kind of off to the side so everybody can get through freely for that day? I don't think he'd have a problem with that, and he's already shaking his head yes. So, I mean, I don't see any interruption. I don't see any problems. If we did get that bid, or if the council chooses to wait, I think it could help, it could hinder. It's kind of a shake of the dice, but we could, I see your worry, because Councilman Burgley has already made that point.
Perfect, and I guess that's what I'm here for. I just wanted to be sure that everyone was aware of that, and that it would be preferred if there is not that interruption, or, you know, thinking about 10,000 people coming into our city here, equipment, different construction, you know, just the different things that can happen when the public is out and about, and a very excited group, I think, when.
Very much so. I'm excited all the time.
Well, I would support putting it off then myself till July 10th.
It could help, it could hinder. I mean,
Because I think,
actually-
I think to have a gravel road on a parade is not ideal. And we've had a year,
It's
with
very short
co-
stretch though, and it's just the beginning really of the
Well, I'm
parade.
telling you, we just had a COVID year where everybody got shut down. I think this parade is gonna go over really big, and if you throw gravel on top of it, you know, then you're gonna have to put water down so we don't have dust everywhere, and I think gravel's gonna be a disaster myself for the parade.
And I guess one piece to add, you know, if we were gonna award on June 8th, there is usually about a 2-week lag for processing contracts, getting everything into place, and then.
So we're still at the
having
end
a
of June.
construction meeting. Yeah, so really the earliest they could have really started is.
Probably June
realistically
10th.
Later June, and so.
Or July, I mean.
July 10th, really, we're probably only talking about maybe a 2-week.
You're actually looking at July 12th. That'd be that following Monday.
Either Monday, yeah, it's just-
Their 10th is a Saturday. They ain't coming on a Saturday.
Right.
So I think this parade will go through, and that next week is when they're gonna move in and start doing things.
I think the
Personally.
day of the parade, they just come right in behind maybe.
If this is approved, I would, yeah, if this is approved, that would be my recommendation. Let's hold off till the 12th of July.
Well, I appreciate the consideration, and then as things move forward, I'll keep tabs on things. Let's just keep the communication open to.
Absolutely.
I'm a huge supporter of the parade. I don't like it, but I'm a huge supporter of it.
I like it, I love it, and
No,
I'm a supporter.
it's just trying to get through town when that thing is going on is a nightmare, but it does wonders for the city, and I'd be the first to admit that, so. And that is our crown of the jewel.
Well, the awesome thing is we do the parade, and then we do fireworks. Then we kick off, you know, it's pretty much kicking off Jubilee, so.
Absolutely. So thank you for your consideration and comment.
You bet.
Thank you for showing up.
Thanks for coming.
Any other comments?
I know Rum River Rods had some concern too because they'll be losing a block. So I think they were gonna put their heads together and possibly see if there's somewhere else they could extend the car show.
Did they come down that far?
Yes.
Yeah, that sounds curious. Fourth, they don't come all the way down to Fourth,
Yeah,
do
they don't come all the way down to
Fourth is
Fourth.
down by the tennis courts.
Yeah. Fifth is
Yep.
down by the tennis courts.
Yeah, we had the street reserved all the way down to Fourth.
I've never
there's-
seen it that big.
It's get,
I
it
think
gets
he's right on
bigger
that
every
fourth
year.
thing. I think he's right with that.
I'm sure we can figure out something.
Go the other way. We can figure
But
something out.
that's one idea they thought of going on the other side of the tracks, but
We can figure something out.
We can figure something out.
yeah.
I wonder if you could come up First Avenue.
I thought that too,
Band,
both
band,
sides.
the band stages there.
That's true.
So
But just
we
for
can't
part of the
really-
day, right? I mean,
We'll figure that out in another day.
Yep,
We'll figure it
exactly.
out. We'll make some accommodations. for that.
Absolutely. I mean, we were all willing to work with that parade. We can work with the Rum River Rods as well. Any other comment in this public hearing? None at this time. I'll close the public hearing.
Make a motion to approve with a start date of July 12th.
I'll second that.
Motion to approve by Councilman Lundin to start with the July 12th date, and a second by Councilman Collison. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Jimmy Gordon, aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Go ahead, sorry.
Motion carries 5-0.
I should clarify, was that just for A or for both of them? Do we need a separate one?
Do you want a separate one?
But, I mean, as long as you're saying they're for both, we do need to pass both of them for the formality of having the authorizing improvement and.
I think you should read it and do another.
We'll still do the approving plans and ordering advertisement for bids for the Main Street reconstruction project was the next resolution.
I make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion to approve by Councilman Lundin and a second by Councilman Burgley. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Jimmy Gordon, aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. Now we can move on to the resolution accepting the 2020 annual finance report and management letter.
2. You skipped 2.
All right, am I up?
Oh, the addendum.
No, resolution special event permit request.
No,
Oh.
K1, we're on K1.
Yeah, we're on K1.
Oh, I'm sorry, my bad.
So Mayor and Council,
We
we
know.
do have Justin Nielsen here from Abstract and Meyer. He's going to be giving a presentation here. He's
All right, good. You ready for me?
yes.
We can hear you.
Good. All right, I'm gonna share my screen here. Oops, I gotta go back here. All right, well, thanks for having me, Mayor and Council. I appreciate it.
Hold on just 1 minute. We have a overlap somehow.
Say that again?
We have our other,
Slide.
We got to change our screen here. Give us a second.
Gotcha.
What'd you do, Jason?
Okay. You let me know when it's time.
I see his, so I'm not sure. Can
Jason
you
screwed it up.
stop sharing for
Yes,
just a minute,
yep.
Justin?
Jason screwed it up.
There we go.
Okay, now try again.
Now we see you. Try again, Justin. There we go.
We're good now? All
Yes,
right,
sir.
we're good. Well, I appreciate you having me tonight. I think you got a busy agenda, so I'll try and keep it moving. I just want to give a quick thank you to Mike and Josie and all the staff that helped us out for our audit this year. Obviously a little bit different doing most of things remotely, so we appreciate all their help in getting through our audit and getting through everything timely and just with that at a high level. So we appreciate all their help, so thank you to them. And also like to just say thank you to the mayor and council also for having us as your audit firm. So we appreciate that and look forward to more years to come. So just a quick introduction on just my presentation. I'll just go over our audit opinion and responsibility and why we're hired as an audit firm and why we need an audit. I'll also go over the general fund results as well as the other governmental funds, enterprise funds, and I'll finish quick with some key performance indicators comparing the city of Isanti to others in similar population size and in the similar county. So the first thing to start with is just our audit results. So in 2020, we did issue a clean unmodified audit opinion, which is the opinion the city is looking for. So that's a good thing. So how we arrived at our audit opinion is, again, we did our audit remotely this year. We tested the same things, looking at how the city pays their bills, pays employees, records taxes, grants, what the council is getting to make decisions and things of that nature. So, with that, we do have one finding that I'll go over on the next slide that is consistent with the past and something that's consistent with smaller cities. But the second thing we are required to do as part of our audit is test Minnesota legal compliance and state statutes. So a couple of the things that we are required to test that I like to bring up as examples are timely payment of claims, conflicts of interest with anyone in the city or the city council. We also do test the bids and quotes that the city does receive. So again, I mentioned we did have the one finding. Again, this is a similar finding from the past. It just is the preparation of financial statements. noting that it is an internal control finding and that as the audit firm, we were asked to prepare the financial statements for the city. Essentially the finding does state that as the audit firm, we really can't be a part of the internal control process, and we do just present it as a risk to the council that states that it is the city's financial statements and that we did prepare it. So again, this is a common finding for small cities and one we have had in the past and nothing new. So I think overall, I think a cost benefit there, and just knowing that it's similar, I think no significant issues. And I think overall a positive thing that no new findings and no other findings this year. All right, so we'll get into the general fund results and some of the financial results for the year. So on this slide, you're going to see the general fund balances over the past five years, as well as the last 5 years of the budget. So what we do is we compare the overall general fund balance and the unassigned fund balance to the city's future budget. We also have a line there for the minimum fund balance, which is outlined in the city's fund balance policy. So a little bit of an uneven line there on the green, which isn't necessarily a bad thing either. But I think the positive thing to note there is the things are on the positive trend, where the unassigned fund balance did get to that 38% of the future year's budget. And I think it's on the steady upswing along with that budget. So I think overall positive changes happening there. So how we arrived at those results is we again just take a look at the overall general fund budget to actual in the year that was. So overall, the general fund did budget about a decrease of fund balance of about $50,000 when looking at everything. Overall, I think the general fund did increase about $250,000. So overall, a pretty good year. The main reason for that is just some positive budget variances. Mainly in the revenues with some of the CARES Act funding that was received and just other grants, as well as just some underspending again, and just how the city budgets for some of its payments for due from other funds, from other things to other funds. So overall, I think a really positive year, and I think we would expect that to continue in the future years with the way the budget looks. So slide 7 just looks at the general fund revenues and expenditures by type. Again, I think we would look for anything here in a trend in the negative direction, or looking at things that would be outliers. So I think the two outliers just to look at, maybe one just there in the 2020 year where that intergovernmental revenue does increase from the past, just with those CARES funds received. So I guess that's really the only thing I see here, maybe the decrease in the taxes from 2018, but overall, I think everything pretty consistent. And looking down at the expenditures, I think nothing really stands out, which I think really speaks to good consistency in the general fund. All right, so we'll switch gears and look at the special revenue funds next. So I think there's a number of them here, but just the two that kind of stand out to me is just overall a pretty good year for the park fund, where there was some dedication fees received, not a lot of expenditures there. So there's a good increase in reserves level there. I think the other positive thing, just in trying to clean up some things from the past, is just closing a couple of small funds there in 2020. So I think overall pretty good. And just to note that most of the funds, again, in the special revenue funds would be restricted and or committed for future use as outlined by those funds. All right, the next is the city's capital project funds. Again, I think the overall decrease here mainly related to some of the street construction projects, and based on sitting through the meeting, just the advance on MSA funding. I think, some of the expenditures that did happen in 2020, expected revenues to be collected in future years for those MSA allotments. So just borrowing ahead there, that really is the decrease from about 1.4 million down to 800,000 there. So I think overall things are planned out well. Those resources are being used well. So slide 10 just takes a look at the kind of the last type before we get into enterprise and looking at the debt service funds. I think this is kind of a good chart to look at just as a nice snapshot of the city's debt service funds. I think a good thing to note here is looking at that second chart there, noting that one of the bonds does drop off in 2021. So freeing up some additional levies there. So I think overall the debt's being paid off and is definitely on the lower side or less than it was, and things are getting paid off. So overall, a good thing there. All right, so slide 11, we'll start looking at the city's enterprise funds. So on the enterprise funds, we're going to see two charts for each one. We do show an operational chart where we would hope to see the operating receipts exceed the green and the gray bar, which would be the operating costs and debt payments. So overall in the water fund, you can see that maybe in 2017 and 18, those things maybe weren't happening. Whereas in 2019 and 2020, those things did start to happen. And you can see kind of the positive impact on the cash balance in that second chart there. I think the last thing I'll point out here is just looking at that, the target that we have noted there, as we do say that is the following year's debt service payment plus 6 months of operating costs. It's just kind of an industry standard for what a good enterprise fund would have as a minimum. So moving on to the sewer fund, we'll see the same charts here. I think a similar story, a little bit different, noting that the operating receipts have exceeded the operating costs and debt payments in the sewer fund over the past 4 years. I think, again, you can also see how that reflects just on that bottom chart there, where the reserves are being built up there for future project costs. Last before the liquor store fund would be just the stormwater fund. Again, not much to point out here. I think overall, this would be dependent on any big projects and any big capital expenditures, but overall, I think operations are doing well and saving for any of those future projects, while the cash balance is kind of on a steady increase. All right, so the last enterprise fund to look at would be the liquor store fund. So I think overall, 2020 was a very good year for the liquor store fund. You know, what we do here is we do show kind of a similar 3-year trend, but we do put the 2019 Office of the State Auditor averages for municipal liquor stores on the right-hand side there. I think if you compare to that, I think overall, you know, maybe last year was a good year compared to those 19 averages, where 2020 would be considered potentially a great year. Obviously, the operating income percentage really strong, and everything, even with the transfer out. You know, the change in fund balance was positive, about $180,000 there. So overall, I think things really went well there. And similarly, we show it a little bit differently graphically, where we can see, you know, the sales increasing, as well as the overall strong gross profit percentage increase from the prior year, as well as the income before transfers. The last one before we get into the key performance indicators, just looking at an overall tie together with just looking at the city's total cash and investments by fund balance type. So again, I think this one just kind of, again, ties things together and just shows where the city's funds are held. And again, we look for any trend in one way or the other. And I think overall things are kind of right on a positive line. So I think overall things are in really good shape there as far as total cash. So looking at the key performance indicators, I'll go through these really quick. You know, looking at things, basically looking at taxes, debt, and just looking at current and capital expenditures per capita. I think on this first slide, you can really see when you look at the city's tax rate and the city's taxes per capita, I think things are inversely, they would be going down, which is in the right direction probably for the city. So I think overall, that's a really positive sign. Looking at that tax rate getting much more in line with the city's under 10,000 in population. And going down to that second chart, taxes per capita, looking at things, again, kind of on the trend downward, and more in line with those cities in the county and in the cities under 10,000. So next one here just looks at, again, those current and capital expenditures per capita. I don't think there's too much to point out here other than, again, I think the city's in line with those. You know, a little bit of a bigger year for capital expenditures for the city with the street projects and things, closer to those averages and a little higher than the counties. But overall, those current expenditures probably a good metric of more consistency, where those are very favorable to the others. And the last one, like I mentioned, just looking at the city's debt service funds or debt service expenditures and expenditures as a percentage of total. Also, again, going on the downward trend, kind of following those taxes. So I think that's a really good sign for the city for the future to plan and to build future reserves for future projects. So with that, I'll take any questions
Any question by the council?
I have none.
Councilman Gordon, you good?
Good.
Yeah, looks good to me too.
Justin, I appreciate the hard work that you and your firm did for the city of Isani, as always. The communication was phenomenal. I have no questions other than heck of a good job as usual, sir.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that. We really enjoy working with this city and working with Mike and Josie. It's a pleasure every year, so we look forward to doing it again next year.
Thank you.
Thanks, Justin.
Awesome. Good luck and have a good rest of your meeting.
Thank you. Have a good night, sir.
Do we
Thank
need a
you.
motion to approve?
Yes.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion to approve by Councilman Lundin and a second by Councilman Collison. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Jimmy Gordon, aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. Moving on to K2, the resolution approving a special event permit request for Walk of Life.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. We do have a special event request for Walk for Life, as you mentioned, from the Pregnancy Resource Center out of Cambridge on May 15th. This will be held from 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. at Bluebird Park. They have approximated that they're going to have about 25 to 40 people coming, and then also spectators. They have done this event here in our city, so we're happy to have them. They have submitted all of the required permit application materials, and staff is recommending approval.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion to approve by Councilman Collison and a second simultaneously by Councilman Burgley and Councilman Collison. All in favor? I said it right.
Just let him go.
Burgley, Collison? You guys did it, oh, Lundin. Because normally it's you two, but no, geez, you guys are throwing me for a loop. Just let me go. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Jimmy Gordon, aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. Moving on to K3, the resolution accepting plans and specifications and authorizing advertisement for bids for the 2021 pavement management project.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Project.
Council.
Project.
So this is our 2020 pavement management project. Granted, it was authorized to, get designed quite a while ago, but we were trying to line it up with this Main Street project to be able to bid them together. And so that's what we're recommending right now. If the plan's complete, just recommend bidding it at the exact same schedule at the same bid date. So contractors would have the option to, maybe combine them and see if we can get a better price.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion to approve by Councilman Lundin and second by Councilman Burgley. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Jimmy Gordon, aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. Before we go on to approving that consent agenda, I would like to say, if the chief could pass on to Officer Eric Baumgart, AKA Chief Baumgart, thank you for his service, and I hope he gets well very soon. Other than that, I think there was one more that I had. What's the mutual aid, Josie, between the city of Isani and Cambridge?
So the city of Isani has mutual aid agreements with, typically, it's just these ones happen to be up for renewal, is the city of Cambridge, Bram, North Branch, East Bethel, and Princeton. And then we also have it with Isani County. These agreements you'll all see coming through by the end of June here, to renew for another 3 to 5 years, depending on the contract term. And that's so if we had a state of emergency, for example, if our tornado came through town and we just didn't have enough resources or bodies to be able to deal with the issues that were at hand, we could call upon our neighboring cities. For example, Cambridge Public Works would maybe help us clear trees out of the streets and things like that. It also allows us to use their equipment based on FEMA schedule of rates and to basically help each other out in times of need.
Okay.
You need a motion to approve it.
I do need a motion to approve the consent agenda with the addendum in mind labeled L9.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion to approve by Councilman Lundin and a second. Simultaneously, once again, by Councilman Collison and Councilman Paul Burgley. All in favor, say aye.
Aye. Motion to adjourn.
Hold on.
Oh,
Jimmy
sorry.
Gordon, aye.
Oh, sorry.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. I have a motion to adjourn by Councilman Burgley. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Lundin. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Jimmy Gordon, aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. Therefore, we stand adjourned. There's just too many names.